Armenia has welcomed 1.4 million tourists so far this year, according to newly released figures from the country's tourism committee. Nearly half, about 46%, came from Russia. Georgia, Iran, the United States, and Germany filled out the rest of the top 5. The majority of tourists arrived via plane to Zvartnots airport outside of Yerevan. Following longtime trends, the busiest months for tourism in Armenia were in the summer, with over 250,000 people visiting Armenia this August alone. While this year's figure of 1.4 million visitors so far still falls below Armenia's all-time record set in 2019, it dwarfs the total number of arrivals in the past 2 years. Less than 1 million people visited Armenia in 2020 and 2021, amid fallout from the COVID-19 pandemic and the Karabakh War. The Armenian government will form a special working group to study steps needed to establish an academic city in the town of Ashtarak, about a half-hour drive from Yerevan. That is according to a decree today from Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan. The working group is expected to produce a report by the end of the month with recommendations on how to establish a major university complex in Ashtarak. The group is set to be chaired by Pashinyan's chief of staff, Arai Karutyunyan. Pashinyan unveiled a wide-ranging educational reform program at a cabinet meeting in September that would see many of the country's public universities merged, consolidated, and moved to Ashtarak. The Armenian government is billing the changes as an effort to improve the quality of higher education in the country. The plan has been met with concern at Yerevan's prestigious Brusov State University, where students have staged walkouts and protests demanding their university not be merged with other institutions. Starting this month, people who have received Armenian citizenship and are applying for their first Armenian passport will have to do so online, according to reforms put in place by the country's police. Appointments to visit passport and visa departments will be made exclusively online, and much of the process will be automated. This summer saw long lines and rowdy crowds at many of Yerevan's passport service centers amid an unprecedented spike in applications, driven by a post-pandemic boom in tourism and the arrival of thousands of Russians applying for residency. Armenia's Office of the High Commissioner for Diaspora Affairs told CivilNet in July that it had received over 8,000 inquiries so far this year about repatriation and obtaining Armenian citizenship or residency. 3/4 of those inquiries came from ethnic Armenians in Russia and other post-Soviet countries. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken held talks in Washington with the foreign ministers of Armenia and Azerbaijan, saying he welcomes the country's courageous steps toward peace and calling for direct negotiations. Following the meeting, which was held at Washington's initiative, Yerevan and Baku released identical readouts agreeing to, quote, expedite their negotiations and organize another meeting in the coming weeks, while also acknowledging that, quote, there is a range of issues that still needs to be addressed. Karabakh, the region at the heart of the many disputes between Armenia and Azerbaijan, was not mentioned in either Blinken's opening remarks or in the two countries' readout of the talks. It was Blinken's third round of talks with the foreign ministers since Azerbaijan launched an unprecedented attack on 36 Armenian municipalities in September, marking the worst outbreak of hostilities in the region since the Karabakh War 2 years ago. Yerevan says it hopes to sign both a peace treaty and a separate border delimitation deal with Baku by the end of the year.